In 2010, the storm of the century arrived in Madeira. Flash floods and landslides all over the island brought large-scale destruction due to intense rain over a short period of time. The water streams coming from the hills increased in volume and velocity, bringing sediment, vegetation and debris. Roads, bridges and buildings were damaged or destroyed, especially along the route to the center of Funchal. The losses were huge in all dimensions, and the recovery was painful in the following years. Floods and landslides have been a historical problem in Madeira due to structural conditions. Over the centuries, many destructive events have occurred in the region, but the catastrophe of 2010 was one of the deadliest. The island's morphology, the geophysical conditions, urban growth, soil erosion and unsustainable land use generated high-risk scenarios. As for the future, climate change studies are predicting more extreme weather events. The temperature of the Atlantic waters is warming, and storms are expected to get stronger and more frequent. Other natural hazards have emerged in recent years. Forest fires have also become a serious threat, with consequent impacts on soil erosion and slope instability. Risks were rising, and the EU programming period of 2014-2020 was the right time for action. The Operational Programme for Sustainability and Efficient Use of Resources, PO SEUR, was planned to support the prevention and management of natural hazards in Madeira under a systemic and structural perspective. Adaptation to climate change was assumed as a strategic priority. The objectives were to reinforce the island's resilience with interventions in the socio-ecological systems, to reduce vulnerabilities and to protect the population. Studies and assessments identified critical areas for interventions to be co-funded. In the period 2014-2019, 37 projects with high technical conditions were approved in 4 specific domains. 11 projects for river regularization and flood control were approved and implemented. For example, along the Ribeira de Santa Luzia stream in Funchal, one of the most critical areas on the island, structural alterations were made to cope with the occurrence of torrential water, avoiding further catastrophes. In Madalena do Mar, another regularization intervention was conducted to reduce the risks related to flooding. 13 projects on landslide prevention and mass movement control were planned and implemented in critical spots. For example, to protect the harbour of Calheta from falling rocks. Due to erosion and instability characteristics. In one of the main connections to Funchal, a large-scale slope contention project was developed to protect the road infrastructures and the safety of citizens. 6 projects for forest fire prevention were approved, with co-financing for new individual protection equipment and also vehicles prepared for fire detection and fighting, considering the significant forest area of the island. Seven projects focusing on planning and monitoring were approved. For example, at the Regional Laboratory of Civil Engineering, innovative actions are being implemented. An early warning system focused on flash flood detection was designed using information and communication technologies, including sensors and cameras in critical spots. For fire detection, robotized cameras were placed in high visibility areas to detect smoke and heat signs, with a connection to the information system, supporting real-time decision-making. A meteorological radar was also constructed in Porto Santo, helping to detect extreme weather events, a critical capacity in the adaptation to climate change. The 37 projects approved had a global investment of 147 million euros, with a contribution from the Cohesion Fund of 121 million euros, representing a large-scale investment in the protection of the population. The risks related to flooding, landslides or forest fires were significantly reduced in critical locations, including the protection of strategic infrastructures. The island and the communities are adapting to deal with the natural hazards intensified by climate change, preventing new catastrophes. And PO SEUR is accomplishing its mission of sustainability and efficiency in the use of resources. And thanks to the EU Cohesion Fund, Madeira is becoming a truly resilient region.